Bonjour, this is G, and welcome to Behind the Mic Live, where I interview incredible speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs who are making big rockstar moves in their business. Today, my guest is Natalie Hales. She is a brand strategist helping financial advisors discover their niche, and she's a rockstar speaker. So please welcome to Behind the Mic Live, Natalie. How are you?
I feel like there should be applause or something like, yeah. I'm great, G. How are you?
Good. Yes, we're waking up. We're having
Yeah.
coffee. There's
Yeah.
so much to talk about. So,
Yeah.
who is Natalie?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I'm a brand strategist and I help advisors discover their niche and craft their positioning and tell their stories to get their
Mhm.
dream clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, how did you find your voice?
That's a really good question. I think I've always had a voice. Like I've
Mhm.
always been my authentic self. I've always been like a very straightforward, straight shooter.
Yeah.
I think I tempered it though when I was in the corporate world, and I think we all do a little bit just to, kind of fit the mold
Mhm.
and kind of be a bit of a cog, and no, not a bad thing at all. It's just I don't think I was able to fully be myself
Mhm.
until I started my business, and I was able to then kind of be, then I realized it was really my authentic self, um, and my voice, and
Right. Right.
and my opinions as well that attracted the right people to me, and so I just stopped tempering it really.
Wow. So, what would you say is your number one rock star quality?
Oh. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just like fanning the flames of my ego here. But thank
That's
you,
part of
G.
being a rock star. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Number one rock star quality. I'd have to say honesty.
Yeah.
I do. I think when you are a consultant, uh, you do have a responsibility to be really honest with people about
Mm.
their ideas, because they are going to affect their business. And
Mhm.
so I do, get the feedback from advisors that they appreciate my honesty and the fact that I'm not a yes person. I don't just say yes
Right.
to everything.
Right.
I'm there to give my honest opinion and help them move forward in the right ways. And I explain all of my thought process behind that, but I think that's something that's really appreciated by who I work with, that, I'm not just a yes person, but I'll fully explain my opinion. But I think too many people, is, who are giving marketing advice might be, that they're just kind of going with the flow. And that's, I'm really here to make sure that advisors are doing the best for their business. And
Right.
so I think it's really important to be as honest as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to finding a great coach is that somebody who is going to be honest with you because especially if you're like a CEO or a VP, you're surrounded by people that are always saying yes to you.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. We'd love to do that. That's
Yeah.
incredible. But then you have a coach and advisor like
Yeah.
Natalie who goes, I mean, do you really want to do that? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Tell me more about what's it like, helping your clients overcome the challenges that they face.
It's amazing. I think I am really I love my job.
Hmm.
And I think those, getting advisors to those aha moments, and especially getting them to love what they do, and
Hmm.
being able to tie in or help them discover a niche that they've never thought of before, and that allows them to be completely unique in their
Hmm.
space,
Hmm.
and then kind of tying it in with a really powerful story for them so that they
Yes.
can speak about, like, this is my mission, this is why I do what I do. Having those two things come together for advisors, and wrapping it all up into their business and their brand,
Mhm.
that's amazing to see. I think when when they have those aha moments and think to themselves, oh my gosh, how did I not know this is my niche, and of course this is my story, and like, you know and they just become so passionate about it.
Yes.
That's what I love seeing, and that's the reason why I do what I do day in, day out is, and when they can take that passion into the
Mm-hmm.
people, that they are meant to be working with, I think everyone benefits. And so that's what I'm trying to do for the industry.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of challenges, you've overcome some personal and health and family challenges. Would you like to share about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, anybody who might have heard me on something else or seen any of my speaking events might have heard me talk about my dad a little bit, and
Yeah.
how I had really just graduated, just kind of started my career, and found out that my dad had had a massive stroke,
Oh, wow.
and my mom, she was actually already on disability. And so we had found out that this was caused by a rare hereditary disease, and that my brother, my sister, and I had a 50-50
Mm.
shot of getting it too. So,
Oh my God.
not only did we go down from one income to no income, but then we also were all facing the challenges of helping my dad through this stroke,
Mm.
but then also facing this potentially ourselves, right? Like,
Right, right.
being told that we, might become disabled and not be able to work ourselves by 35.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like
Oh wow.
the symptoms of it were pretty intense, right? Very intense migraines. It's called Catasil. It's just an acronym for extremely long.
Wow.
But basically, what
Wow.
it is it's a stroking disease, but it starts off with like crippling migraines and
Oh wow.
dementia and things like that. So, if you can imagine, that makes it very difficult to work, and so being told that I might need lifelong care, things like that, when I was pretty young, uh,
Wow.
was devastating. And
Wow.
I had, in my mind, I was just, you know, uh, thinking about the burden that I might become to my significant other, to my own
Mm-hmm.
family. And that was, it's silly thoughts just running through your head, but something that I
Yeah.
personally couldn't get out of my mind. And so it was a real weight that I had on my chest at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
But my boss at the time, lovely guy, he said to me, I think it's I think you should talk to my financial advisor. He helped me put policies in place and helped me
Mm-hmm.
really get set up for the future. And I think that's something that you probably need at this stage in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had never, and I've spoken about this before. Like, we were very, very blue collar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, never had even thought about seeing a financial advisor. Never crossed our minds. Uh, didn't grow up in the best area of town. Like, I don't think
Oh wow. Yeah.
you definitely could not travel easily to a financial advisor in my area. And
Okay. Okay. Wow.
and
Yeah.
so it was very new to me. But when I was very nervous. I had no idea what to ask, no idea what to say, no idea what to do. But I
Mm.
went anyway, and I
Mm-hmm.
met my advisor, Vic.
Yep. Vic.
Yeah, and he first and foremost told me about how his dad had actually had heart issues, and had heart failure, and passed away when he was about my age. And
Oh
so,
my God.
yeah, so I mean, I felt like this person understood what I was potentially going through, the things that were going through my
Yeah.
mind. And immediately, I trusted him to be able to help me, because he shared that with me. And I, walked out of there, because he helped me kind of understand what I
Mm-hmm.
needed and why. And I ended up walking out of there feeling like this massive weight was finally off my shoulders. I had
Wow.
finally sorted everything out. I could get everything in place,
Mm-hmm.
so that, I would be financially, stable either way, whatever
Right.
happened.
Right.
And so that's what kind of gave me the push to take the test, right? This genetic testing that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that, 6 months later, worst 6 months of my life, but
Oh my God.
right,
Yeah.
Canadian
Just waiting for the results. Like, oh wow.
Canadian
Wow.
healthcare. um,
Uh,
and genetic testing on top of that, but it turned
wow.
out,
Yeah.
yeah, it turned out negative, which was wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
but point being is that, I was financially ready either way. And I just remember thinking, why do more people not understand how financial advisors help, like what they do, what they're out there to help people? Um, and there is obviously a little bit of stigma around financial advisors too. And so, um, I just felt like more people needed this kind of help
Yeah.
long before, something
Yeah.
like a tragedy strikes. And so that's the reason why I work with financial advisors today. And I help them understand, who they should be working with and why.
Yeah.
And kind of the rest kind of writes itself, really.
Yeah. And you help them share their story, because it was Vic's personal story of what he went through, the challenges that he overcame, that really connected with you. And you brought up a very good point about financial advising, insurance, all these things that people are like, oh, do I need it? This is it. It's important to plan
Hmm.
early on in your life,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that when you get into the 50s, 60s, 70s, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what advice would you have to financial advisors that are going out there and presenting to their clients? Like, what's one thing you could
Well,
give them that, you know?
I try and convey with my own story that empathy and a level of
Mm,
vulnerability is what builds trust. And
yeah,
they know and they've heard that trust is everything in a relationship, and they know that down to their core. But
yeah,
it is uncomfortable to figure out how to share your own personal story, your own details,
right.
to help people understand where you're coming from and to allow them to get you to know you on a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I help them share their story to the right people in the right way, um, to help them understand like the before, the change, and the after, but
Yes.
also letting them know that they do have to have some level of vulnerability to be able to
Mm-hmm.
empathize with their niche. And so I just help them put it together in a way that they're comfortable with while still conveying the right message. Yeah,
Yes.
so I mean, that's probably one of the main things I really try to convey to financial advisors, that, yes, trust builds relationships,
Mm-hmm.
but there's nothing quite like empathy and vulnerability to help build trust.
Yes, and I want to talk about, you presented your story with about Vic. I know, because we worked together on some coaching sessions and the PowerPoint and everything, and you shared that story. What was it like presenting out at in LA,
Yeah.
and being in front of the people, and then just all the other speaking gigs that are happening because that? What was the feeling like when you're on stage presenting to your
Yeah.
audience?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I think, for me, I've had a recent shift of, what it feels like to present to hundreds of people and get up on stage. I used to be a little bit nervous about doing that,
okay, yeah,
uh, and it's not that I'm not nervous anymore. I just feel like I have now channeled that into excitement. And
yes.
I think what our sessions taught me is how to do that properly. Um, to be able to flip that switch when I need it
Yes.
to,
Yes.
into excitement, and just because I am, right? Like, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to go to anything that, that allows me to share my message and allows me to kind of get some of this information out to financial advisors. And so, I've learned how to properly channel that nervousness now into excitement, and I feel like that has completely altered the show,
Yeah.
that I put on,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So
You're
I'm
feeling you're
really
in a rock star. That's what it's
yeah,
about. It's serious. Yes. Yes.
yes, and I think
Yeah.
it's one thing to say, like, I wanna put on a great show, but the
Mhm.
only way to really put on a great show is to believe you are a rock star, is to believe
Yes.
right down to your boots that these people are here to understand what you're saying and to hear to under yeah, to listen to you. And
Yes.
so, uh, I think that was kind of the biggest shift for me recently, is that being able to channel that properly to be able to
Yes.
put on a really great show.
Yes. What did it feel like when you were in the pocket? What we talked about in the pocket. Did you feel that, where you and the audience are on the same frequency and it just clicks, and you just, What was that feeling like?
Yeah, I think it almost feels like you're having a conversation
Yes.
with the audience. Uh,
Yes.
yes, you are the one talking, obviously, for the majority of the time, and I as well did encourage audience interaction and participation. Uh,
Mhm.
but even in those times, like you said, when you're in the pocket, it
Yes.
does feel like when you're having those pauses and allowing them to come to their own conclusions with certain things, you understand what the response should be, and you feel it come back to you. And
Yes.
it's almost like having a conversation with them when you are in the pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, because you are having a conversation with them. Your subconscious
Yeah,
is connecting with their subconscious, and it just feels and then the nerves and everything else just kind of just fades away
it does.
because
Yeah.
you're
You're
like,
so
I
comfortable. Yeah.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the moment, it is really awesome. I never thought that something like that would be possible. And so I think that that was really transformative for me,
Oh,
um,
thanks.
to
Yeah.
feel that
Yeah.
in the moment that somebody is so
Yeah.
resonating with what you're saying that you can feel the responses coming back to you, and that you can continue on with the conversation. And it's really powerful that way.
Yeah, and after with that show leads to more shows
Yeah.
and now you're starting to get booked on more shows,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
you're on
It's
tour,
having that
you're on
right
tour.
energy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it has kind of snowballed into bigger things for me, which is amazing. Um, and I'm just really grateful to have the opportunity to do that and to be able
Yeah.
to continue to do that and share my story, but then also help advisors um, understand how to tell their stories.
Yes.
And I'm just I'm grateful to get it out there and that
Yeah.
people want to hear it.
Yeah, because I can imagine that in that industry, a lot of it is based on numbers.
Oh
That's
yeah,
my impression of financial. Someone's gonna sit down with me and give me percentages and return and all this stuff. But like you said, and this is what your coaching program is about. And I want to talk about your framework, the niche funnel,
yeah.
of helping financial advisors share their story. So what's 3 tips you can give financial advisors today to help them share their story?
Yeah, great question. I think first, and anybody who's heard me talk before, they'll know that I say like stories stick, stats don't. There's
Yes.
this like, you know, in our industry especially, we feel like putting stats in our presentations and in our our proposals is going to be the most powerful thing that we share. But if we don't tell stories first and help them
Right.
understand why it's important, then those stats don't matter.
Right.
And so yeah, I'll always tell them, story sticks, stats don't. And we have to tell the story first and then give the
Mhm.
stats. Uh, of course, like I mentioned that before, that uh, vulnerability creates the trust
Right.
that they need, and so I'll
Right.
just say that
Right.
again to make sure that
Yes.
that's kind of hammered home. I think that's really important. I probably can't stress that enough. That yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, trust is the most important thing, and the way to get that is having a level of empathy,
Yes.
and of course, in order to have a level of empathy, you do need to be slightly vulnerable. And then when you are sharing your stories, one of the biggest tips that I gave away at one of my most recent speaking events was I think the reason why advisors aren't big fans of storytelling is because they have these wandering stories, right? Maybe they forget what they're saying, or they forget
Right.
how to tell it, or they feel like their stories go on and on and on, and so they just feel like that they're not great storytellers. And so if you can get that micro story together, if you can get like
Mhm.
the before, that change, that kind of
Yes.
that pivots everything, and then
Yes.
the after, um,
Yes.
it allows you to remember, uh, the arc of that story, and allows you to tell a really concise story that somebody can remember and that you can remember, but then
Yep.
also makes the point in a really powerful way. So I'll continue to kind of teach advisors how to do that,
Yep.
and that before, that change, and the after. to be really great storytellers, because I think that that's the way that they can have the most impact with their clients and their prospects, of course.
Yes, yes. And that's a great framework, because then when you're sharing a story, and people need to remember, they never will remember details. I see people
Yeah.
sharing a story. Was it raining that day? Was it a Thursday? I think it was a Friday. Like those details, the person you're telling the story to, unless it's really effective to the story, they're not gonna remember that. They're gonna remember the feeling
Yeah.
that they have with it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And so when we're when we're creating a story, those
Mhm.
I mean, those details that you give, if it's not pushing the story forward towards that big change that's happening, like if it's not important to that, then it's
Yes.
actually taking away from the story. And so that's another
Yes.
thing that we have to look at and see what details actually matter, right? And what's important to include, and why. And and we do that kind of work together, and then they understand not only how to tell great stories, but then also it helps them remember like why to include what details.
Yes.
And so yeah, it helps them both tell their story properly, but then also become better storytellers themselves.
Yes, and it's like anything, the more you practice it, the more you try that story out at the next client meeting. You try, I mean, don't go in there with a script and have it word for word. Just you're sitting at coffee, having coffee or a cafe with someone, just share that story and see what their reaction is. And yeah,
Yes,
and I want to talk about your celebrating. You and Jay are celebrating a pretty big anniversary. I
yes,
want to know about that. We were just talking about this off camera, your trip to Europe. So tell
yes.
us all about it. Yes.
Um, so after a few speaking events, I gave myself a little break, and we
Mhm.
celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. Yes, thank you.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
By heading over to Europe and
Mhm.
kind of traveling from Italy all the way to the Czech Republic and kind of hitting all of the capital cities along the way.
Yes.
And I love kind of going to see, experience the food and the architecture and the
Mhm.
history. And so very lucky to have done that over the last few weeks, and stepped away recently and just enjoyed each other's company, and it was
Yeah,
amazing. It was amazing.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, celebrating, one way to celebrate the bigger milestones I've had in my business.
Mhm.
Not everybody feels like it would be the great time to step away, but I just felt like,
Hey,
it's
uh,
never, it's never going to be the perfect time to do something like
you
that.
make the time.
Yeah,
You
that
decide on the time.
you have to, yeah.
You have to, yes. 'Cause then you come
So
back even more recharged
yes.
and could do a better job for the clients and
Yeah,
everything.
it's so important to be able to kind of get away and recharge, and yeah, and I mean, it was an amazing experience, and it just gives you even more stories to tell, right? So
Yes, exactly. You got more on the set list for the next show. And
yeah,
these are the stories that people remember. They
yeah,
may not remember the percentage of ROI or whatever on a PowerPoint, but they'll remember that story of, traveling around Europe or,
yeah, and I
celebrating
mean,
anniversary.
even
Yeah.
just, I think a lot of
Say
people resonate with the fact that um, it's never going to be the perfect time to do something like that, but you do
Mhm.
have to just take that time for yourself anyway. I told that story on LinkedIn when I got back, and I think a lot of people, especially business owners, resonate with that. Like they
Yeah.
always just feel like, oh, after this thing, I'll take some time, or after this project, or after this, few gigs that I have. Um,
Yep.
and I mean, there's always going to be something in the
There's
calendar.
always
Yeah.
right. Right. I know. It's like
um, yeah, and so especially as somebody who's started their business within the last few years, you always just feel like it's never the right time the first 5 years in your business. But I am complete opposite mindset. I just feel like
yes.
I agree with you. I feel like you have absolutely need to recharge in order to kind of come home and be able to
Yep.
go full force again.
And sometimes if you're stuck and
Yeah.
you're like, just taking a break and saying, okay, we're closing. I mean, remember, old school businesses would just put the close sign on the door, and it could be Wednesday at 3 o'clock and it's
Yeah.
closed. Dry cleaners are closed. Like, well, okay,
Yeah.
we'll be back on Monday. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll just bring it back on Monday, like take
Yeah.
the time to close up shop for a bit, and you'll
Mhm.
find that you really a lot of the ideas and the blocks and everything. Yeah.
Yes,
Will just go
100%.
away.
The absolutely. If you have any kind of, and everybody needs that creative muse,
Yes.
in their business, to be able to have those CEO days where you really inject life back into your business.
Yes.
So take those breaks, because those are the only ways that you're going to be able to get creative ideas to push your business forward. And so 100% advocate for taking breaks and getting away and
Yes.
taking time for yourself. As an extroverted introvert,
Extroverted introvert. Yes.
I absolutely need the time to recharge. So yeah, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people resonate with that. And like I say, any kind of extroverted introverts will 100% agree.
Yes. So how can people work with you with your coaching? How can they get in touch with you to do the speaking events? And also, we talked off camera about you being a guest on more podcasts. So what's the best way for people to reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely check out my website, nataliehales.com.
Mm-hmm.
They can always connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
Love people connecting with me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message, shoot me a DM. But yeah, I do have my any information about my program is on my website, nataliehales.com.
Yep.
Also, my digital course and things like that for anybody who's not able to work with me one-on-one. I do make sure I have other avenues for them
Yes.
to be able to, one, get a ton of information from
Mm-hmm.
my emails.
Mm-hmm.
If they are up for taking my quiz to kind of see how they're doing
Yes.
in niche marketing, they can certainly take my quiz, and they get kind of everything I think about niching, branding, and marketing through my emails. If they want kind of my brain dump of everything that I believe and everything that I kind of teach advisors, they can get
Yes.
through my emails. But then, there's the ability to take my course or to work with me
Yep.
one-on-one through my program.
Perfect. So before we go, I have to know, who's your favorite rock star?
You, G.
I'm
Of
gonna edit
course.
that together. I'll cut that. No, that's great. No. I was not expecting that. No, who's this is live.
Yeah.
No editing.
No, okay, I get it. You know
Oh God,
what?
you're embarrassing me. Okay.
When
Yes, it was great working with you as
Yeah,
well. So I'm really excited.
yeah,
I got to tell everybody, like, I am just so excited of your rock star journey that you are on. You've been on this for a long time, and just knowing the things that are in the works in the next 3, 6, 9 months down the road, I'm just
yeah,
excited to be part of it. So I really appreciate that. But yeah,
yeah.
back to the show now.
No,
Back in
I
commercial. Who's your favorite?
you know
Oh
what?
man, you got me, Natalie.
I
Okay.
I grew up listening to Queen and Aerosmith, and
Yes.
so I
Yes.
am gonna throw it back to those guys.
Yes.
Huge, still a big lover of Queen and Aerosmith, so they'll always have a place in my heart.
Yeah. And talk about storytelling.
Yeah,
And like, I mean, just the
yeah. I
songs
mean,
that
like,
they wrote, like, it's incredible.
I think music is just not the same anymore after the 2000s, and a lot of it
Agree.
is because they're just not telling a story anymore with their songs, and that's I've said this to my husband like plenty of times, like, no, I want a story in my songs. I think that's what
Yep.
made music amazing, and so yeah, got to give it to them. They
Yeah.
did it right.
I think the main difference too is, like, because I would see these posts online, Bohemian Rhapsody written by 4 guys, you know what I mean? And I won't say a name, but a pop singer written by 20 people. I think, like you
Yeah,
said, after the 2000s, see, now it's become science. There are
yeah,
certain words, there are certain chords, or certain phrases that become the earworms that everybody has. And
yeah,
back in the day, I think those artists just went in the studio and they just wrote what they felt. They would
yeah.
start out as poets, right? It's
Yes.
just like writing songs. And yeah, so
A totally
wow.
different ability. And so completely agree with you. They just had a knack for coming up with something completely original that
Yeah,
they just absolutely knew in their heart would resonate with their people.
yeah.
And I miss that.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I've been out in the music business now for about 5 years, and I'm like, yeah, I miss the rawness of it, you
Hmm.
know. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important with your public speaking too, I know you've got, you've got your notes, you got your set list, you got your PowerPoint and stuff. But when people realize that, it's just get to that realness of
Mhm.
it. Like you said, getting into the pocket. It's the
Yeah.
best feeling in the world, isn't
It
it?
is. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. Never have I experienced it quite like that, but when you can put together a really great show, you can
Yeah.
focus on that instead. And I think that makes all the difference when you can have that mindset and just get into the flow of things. I think
Yeah.
that's what really makes for a great show. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, this is perfect. Yes. Well, everybody be sure to connect with Natalie here on LinkedIn. Go to nataliehales.com, book her for your next event, get her on your podcast. If your audience is financial advisor, she's well on her way of this rock star journey that, I kind of know some things of what plans are, and you're a rock star. You are a rock star,
Thank you. I'm so
and
excited
people
for
are.
everything to come.
You're welcome. Everyone's going to know about you in the next 6 months. So yeah, this is really awesome. Yeah,
Thank you so
I
much.
really.
I really appreciate your time.
You got it. Okay. Well, thank you again, and until next time, everyone.
All right.
Okay. Ciao. Cheers.
Bye.